So when I say go, you say? Bingo. Go. Bingo. Go. Bingo. Go. Bingo. Thank you very much. You can be seated.
Welcome to the 13th UMFK Athletics Hall of Fame Banquet and Induction Ceremony. It is my great pleasure to introduce our MC for the evening, Dr. Malek Corey. Malek is a UMFK, give him a round of applause there too. Malek is a UMFK alum, a UMFK Hall of Famer, inducted in 2013 as a player and coach for his contributions as a goalkeeper for our squad, and later as a coach leading our program to a Sunrise Conference Championship and several Potato Barrel Championships. Malek is currently president of Unity College. So without further ado, Dr. Malek Corey.
You know, it's funny, I speak at a lot of events, but I'm more nervous speaking at this one than I think in any other event I've had to talk about or speak at over the last few years. Driving up from Portland to Unity, I didn't tell you guys, no, to Fort Kent, every time I went up those hills in Route 11, a little bit of my 12 years in Fort Kent came back. And, you know, I'm 50 years old, but with every mile, I lost 5 years. And I walked in these doors, and I swear to God, I'm 21 years old right now. I'm giddier than I need to be. And all I can think of is the jokes I used to have with my friends. And I realized, wait a second, you're grown, man. You cannot be making those silly jokes. So I'm going to try my best to be as adult as I can. But if I make a mistake and I'm not, please know it's because I'm home. And it's great to see all of you. Welcome to the event. You know, it's always fun to be back home. And for those of you, I can see a lot of young faces here right now. A few years from now, you're going to graduate. A few years after that, you are going to be invited to be inducted to the Hall of Fame. And then the one thing you're always going to say, whether you are 50 years old or 22 years old, is, when do we eat? Because since I've been up here, I've seen a few of you eyeing the buffet. And for those of you who are being streaming, next time, be here. This streaming thing isn't going to work. You got to be here, you got to support your college, and you got to come see the athletes who are being inducted. Don't you guys agree? But without further ado, before we start the ceremony formally, I was told that we are going to, enjoy a good dinner. For those of you who are streaming, open some Pringles, go to McDonald's, do whatever you need to do. We'll see you back in an hour. Dinner is served. Go! 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 Thank you very much. You can be seated. Why don't we give another, like this time, like you mean it, special round of applause to those who made the food, those who served the food, those who made sure that we had a good time. Excellent. Without further ado, for the welcoming, our athletic director.
All right, welcome and thank you for dinner to Sodexo. I'm going to start with a few thank yous. Thank you to the UMFK facilities staff for putting all of this together, doing all the hard work, even when we make last minute adjustments, right, Matt? Thanks for not being too mad at us for that. Also for hanging the plaques out in the hallway. You always go above and beyond and do a great job for us. Sodexo, again, thanks for the food. It was wonderful. There are so many people that deserve recognition for an event like this. There's so many little things that go on behind the scenes, and a lot of work is involved in this. And it can't be accomplished with a lot of people, and there's way too many people to thank, but Matt has done a great job with all of this planning, all of the committee, which I'm going to introduce in a second, but I'm going off script a little bit. Tardy, always doing a lot of extra work behind the scenes, and she doesn't like recognition. but she deserves it, which she'll get some more later. All right, back on script. I am here to recognize the members of the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. From athletics, we have coaches Matt Dyer, Oniki Samuels, and Tara Kelly. Representing alumni athletics, we have Larry Murphy, Teresa Biggs, Tammy Delisle, and Robbie Netto. Faculty and staff representatives, Lonnie Netto and Dr. Leo Trudell. Head of Development, Shannon Lugden. And Student Athlete Representative, Xavier Dennis. So I'll just end again, another thank you to everybody involved in all of this, and I hope everyone enjoys their evening.
You know, when I used to coach, my athletic director always gave me a hard time. And I realize now that I'm in a position of authority that I should have just said thank you and just for the work that the athletic director does to keep the athletic program running at a college. We have no idea what you do every day. And so thank you, ma'am, for everything you do for our alma mater. You know, a college is like a small city, right? You've got people all over doing many things, and it looks disjointed. Sometimes it looks chaotic, but we constantly move forward. We cannot move forward without someone at the helm. And as a 1999 grad, having left UMFK and always looking from afar, making sure that my alma mater is doing well, I'm very, very proud tonight as the MC to introduce the president of the University of Maine at Fort Kent, Dr. Deb Eddy.
Good evening. Look at all of you. You're so quiet, so attentive. It's because you have a full belly right now, right? Yeah. Yeah, and what also was good with moving into dinner right away is you had a chance to visit and to talk at your tables, which is always nice to get to spend some time with people that you maybe haven't seen for a while. I know there are a number of alumni present tonight, and I would like to say to you, welcome home. Welcome home to your alma mater. We always enjoy when you return to visit family, friends, and attend special events. It means a lot to us to see you, to hear your stories, to hear what you've been doing over a number of years. The Athletics Hall of Fame is an event that honors those who have performed and or contributed in exceptional ways. These individuals are leaders who are passionate about athletics, determined and driven to help their teams win. You exemplify a mindset that is disciplined to practice and to compete at consistently high levels. And we saw that today in both the women and the men's soccer games. So let's hear it for both of those groups today. Incredible games. And such beautiful weather. We're very fortunate. The 4 inductees this evening have made valuable contributions to the sport of athletics. They have won national championships and received recognition and awards during their athletic and professional careers. Athletics plays an important part of our students' experience while attending university. We have a number of students joining us tonight. I see them around the room, and we're very proud of our students who are not only amazing students, but amazing student athletes. And that makes such a difference, and they contribute in so many important ways. Many of them are student leaders. They're engaged, they're everywhere. They're student ambassadors for this campus, and we can't thank you all enough for being the most amazing students here at University of Maine at Fort Kent. Let's hear it for our students. The University of Maine at Fort Kent is incredibly proud of these 4 individuals who will be inducted into the Athletics Hall of Fame this evening. Your legacy will live on at UMFK. For making a difference, for pushing the boundaries and exceeding expectations, and for giving of yourself. So again, thank you to the 4 inductees. We are here to honor you this evening. Thank you.
I think this is the most exercise I've gotten all year. This counts as preseason for me, so. You know, in any athletic department, you've got the athletic director, you've got the coaches, you've got also the administration, the support, but then you've got that one guy. That one guy that gets it done. Whenever you need something, wherever something has to happen, you look at that guy. And that guy is Matt Dyer. And he will be coming up in a second to introduce the Floyd Red Powell Award. Everybody please give a warm and familiar welcome to Matt Dyer. My man.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the Floyd Red Powell Award, I'd like to recognize some members of the UMFK Hall of Fame family who were inducted in previous years who are in attendance here tonight. Would they please stand and be recognized when I call your name? Larry Murphy from the inaugural Hall of Fame class of 2008. Andre Anderson and Beth King, class of 2012. From the class of 2013, Dr. Malek Corey. From the class of 2017, Teresa Biggs and Keith Williams. And from the class of 2020, Bill Ashby. We'd also like to recognize from the class of 2016, the inducted 2008 men's soccer team, members Andre Anderson, Oniki Samuels, Jermaine West, and Keith Williams. Thank you, past honorees. We'd also like to take a moment of silence to recognize 2 members of our Hall of Fame that passed away this past year. Bernard Bunny LaPlante was a dual sport soccer and basketball player for the Bengals from 1962 to 1966. And Wolf Dieter Koch, who was a soccer player for the Bengals from 1985 to 1988, and later athletic director from 1991 to 1993. May those friends of ours rest in peace. Now switching to the Floyd Red Powell Award this evening. The Floyd Red Powell Award was established in 2014 and is awarded at each Hall of Fame ceremony to an individual who has made a significant contribution to the development and/or enhancement of UMFK athletics and its student athletes for an extended period of time. This year's very deserving recipient is Sue Tardy. Outgoing, helpful, productive, energetic, positive, a team player. These are just a few qualities which describe Sue. From her start at UMFK 18 years ago till now, Sue has always been more than willing and able to lend a hand any way and anywhere that it is needed at our university. For athletics, this means we're working behind the scenes at big events like the Athletic Hall of Fame, being a color printer, paper slicer, and laminating station, essentially a Staples, whenever we need one, and being a liaison to so many of our alumni and community members, many of which are here tonight. Malcolm Gladwell, in his popular book, The Tipping Point, describes 3 types of people: connectors, mavens, and salespeople. Malcolm forgot the 4th category, a Tardy, who is a connector, bringing people together, a maven, knowledgeable about the happenings on campus, and salesperson who helps seal the deal and just get the job done. Sue, thank you for everything that you do for our faculty, staff, students, alumni, and community members, and this university.
What a beautiful evening, seeing everybody here. I'm just going to say my speech because Matt said I had to. Thank you, Matt, for your kind words. I want to begin to say how honored I am to be the recipient of this year's Floyd Red Powell Award. I also want to thank the UMFK Athletic Selection Committee members. Congratulations also go out to the Athletic Hall of Fame inductees this evening. It is so nice to see so many people, friends and family of the inductees, UMFK community members, UMFK students, alumni, and supporters of the university. This Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony that began in 2008 is still going strong in 2022. Thank you, UMFK. Go Bengals.
Bonjour. Assalamu alaikum. I know we have some Moroccan friends over here. How you doing? Alhamdulillah wa rabbil alameen. So today, we are about to introduce 4 new Hall of Famers. But before we get into the induction ceremony, first of all, Matt, you stole my lines. I was supposed to say those things, he did, so I'm really upset. I want my money back. I'm just kidding. There are 2 folks that Matt recognized. That's the one thing I've learned about having a mic is unless somebody physically takes it away from you, you get to say whatever you want. So there are 2 folks that Matt recognized that I just want to give a special shout out to today. One is Coach Murph. Coach, I remember the first time you and I went shopping. And this might not be funny to many of you, but I think Coach and I went shopping at the Shop and Save. I used to work at the Shop and Save as well, by the way. And Coach Murphy saw me buying some really, really interesting bones from the butcher to actually take. And as I was at the register, Coach said to me, "I didn't know you have dogs." I'm like, "Dogs? These are for me." He's like, "What do you do with those?" And I was like, "You make, I used to use them to make basically broth for food." And from that day on, Coach Murph and I became friends. And I will say that, I guess, Coach, you adopted me. And I will say, when I was his assistant coach for the first year, there was a joke that Coach Murphy said on a bus that I will never forget. Because a lot of you students here, how many of you here are international students? Don't be shy, I used to be one. Okay, so Coach Murphy's, my favorite joke for Coach Murphy ever is that when you're on a bus crossing to Canada to go across, Coach, did you forget that joke already? Back then, the INS guy would walk in and he would look at the bus and he would go, "Are you all American?" And Coach, without missing a beat, would go, "Hell, we didn't even make all conference this year." But to coach's credit, UMFK has made a lot of all-conferences, a lot of All-Americans, a lot of championships, and the next inductee is no exception, and she will be introduced by my old assistant coach via video, Lucas Levesque.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lucas Levesque. I was the head women's soccer coach at the University of Maine at Werntjen from 2004 to 2017. I had the privilege of coaching Catherine all 4 years of her time at Maine Werntjen, and it's my pleasure tonight to induct her into the UMFK Athletic Hall of Fame. I want to first off congratulate everybody, all 4 inductees tonight, Ed, Ben, Eric, and Catherine. It's a very well-deserved honor. All 4 of you had tremendous contributions to UMFK athletics, and all 4 are very, very well deserving of this award tonight. As many of you know, Catherine was a tremendous player. She won every award you can think of. She was multiple-time National Player of the Year. Was captain of our team. Was the heart and soul of what we did. She had a tremendous impact on and off the field for our program, and obviously left a tremendous legacy. I think if we look, as I kind of look back over the years of what made Catherine great, there were really kind of 3 things that stood out. One obviously was her talent. I mean, she was a great player, very technical, had tremendous speed, had a pretty good head on her shoulders in terms of understanding the game. I think she certainly grew as time went on, and as our number 9, she learned pretty quick how to get behind defenses and score goals at will. And she scored well over 100 goals during her time at Werntjen, and really kind of helped elevate our program. I think we were really good. We were pretty good before she got here. We got really good, while she was here, and that really allowed us to take that next step. So, certainly, you don't get into this elite group without talent. Catherine, without question, was a very talented player. I think the next thing that really stood out was her work ethic. I think Catherine really helped elevate everybody on the team in terms of how she ate, how she worked out, how focused she was, on and off the field. She was a tremendous student, won multiple Student Athlete of the Year awards as well, and just always did things the right way. And I think that really helps when you're trying to continue to take that next step as a program, to have kids like Catherine in that program, setting that example. It goes a long way. I remember I was on a recruiting trip, and I was talking with the coach of the University of Maine, and this was in Ontario, and he talked about how he recruits a lot in Canada because you don't have to teach kids how to work. Sometimes you can get kids that are a little bit lazy, a little bit unfocused, a little bit undisciplined. I'll tell you that our Canadian student athletes were very, very disciplined, focused, and Catherine was one of the key leaders in setting that example, and that spread throughout the team. So without question, I think her work ethic had a tremendous impact on what we were looking to do and how we were looking to get better. And then obviously the third piece is the competitive fire. Catherine had, without question, the killer instinct that you need to be not only a goal scorer, but a tremendous player at the level we wanted to play at. And whether it was a competition in training or whether it was game day, I never had to worry about, and her teammates never had to worry about whether Catherine was going to play or where her head was at, and how focused she was, and how hard she wanted to work, and how much she wanted to win. And Catherine and I butted heads from time to time. We were both very stubborn people, and both very super competitive, and kind of super set in our ways. And the one thing that I think drew us together from a player-coach standpoint was, at the end of the day, winning is the single most important thing. And I think we kind of bonded, and we had a mutual understanding of, hey, look, at the end of the day, this is what I need from you. This is what you need from me, and we worked together to make sure that our team was in the best position to win each and every time we stepped on the field. And Kat's competitive spirit was huge, and again, a big piece of her success, a big piece of our success. I look back and, this is kind of bittersweet for me. I've been out of college coaching now for a little over 5 years now, and it was a little emotional for me to look back and think about all the times we had, think about how special our group was, and again, Kat was kind of right in her 4 years was right in the heart of what we, our growth and us taking the next step. As I look back, there were really kind of 3 real big memorable moments for us, and the first one I'll share is the game against Bates. We finally got an STAC school on the schedule, and we were very excited to kind of show how good our program was and what we could do. And we had a game on Saturday against, it was Alabama College of Pharmacy. We had a fairly easy win against a pretty decent team. And then we had to get on the bus, drive to Lewiston, and prepare for Bates the next day on Sunday. And Bates is just coming off a tough loss. I think they lost 2-0 against Williams. Williams was number 1 in the country for Division III. It was a 1-goal game until like the 85th minute when Williams scored the second goal. But Bates had given up, I think, 6 goals in the last 5 games, and played a tough schedule. They were really solid. And we came out and we were up 5-0, probably 10 minutes into the second half. And Kat, I believe, had at least 3 and scored some really nice goals. And this was a game I talked to our players about being a statement game and something we wanted to show not only Maine, but teams in New England how good we really were. And I think that was a game where I kind of put a lot of pressure on our kids and really challenged them to step up and to make a statement. And Kat led the way. And I think she scored 2 goals in the first 15 minutes and was just laser focused. And it was just a great showing for us, great for our program. But Kat was the catalyst for that, and that was a big win for us. And a big statement win for our program. The second one was probably playing Roberts Wesleyan, the D2 out of Rochester, New York. It's a game where we tied at 1-1 the year before, but we had Kamika in goal, and Kamika made like 20 saves. It just kept us in the game, and it was a game where we kind of got outplayed, but stayed in it and at least got a draw out of it. So the next year we went down there, and it was their homecoming, and they had a pretty good crowd base. And I'm thinking, man, hopefully we can compete today. And we came out and played fantastic. Kat had several great plays and a couple assists in that game. Again, her leadership, her focus, her motivating her teammates and everything else. And we ended up getting a 3-0 win against a really solid Division II school at their place, at homecoming. Not what their coach expected when he scheduled that game. That was a big statement game for us too. That was one of the first big wins we had against a big-time scholarship program. And I remember just how important that was and how well Catherine played in that match to help us get there. And really the other piece is the Damon trilogy. So Kat's freshman, sophomore, and junior year, we ended up playing Damon in the national championship game. And I know her freshman year, we had a great group. We had a lot of seniors. We lost 1-0 in double overtime, and that was a really tough game for us. That was very emotional. There was a lot of tears. And I know how upset Kat was at the end of the game. Not only for her, but for the team, for the seniors that we lost. Teresa, Mary Pierre, Andrea. We can go through the list. There's a ton of kids. Mary Michelle, that whole crew. So to see them off. So the next year, we ended up playing in the finals and ended up beating them in overtime. And I think Kat scored the first goal. That was the game Mary Michelle. Mary Levesque scored with like a minute to go, sending it into overtime. And that was a big one for us. And then obviously in year 3, we beat them 2-0. Kat scored the goal to ice it. Brianna Mills scored a free kick from about 35 yards out, put us up 1-0. Kat put the icing on the cake for a 2-0 win. And so those were all huge matches for us. And Kat, I know, had a big chip on her shoulder every time we played Damon. I think that was a really kind of a big rivalry that helped fuel Cap year in and year out to get us to that next level. I think for us, as I look back, you know, one of the big stories that I kind of thought about throughout the time is, so right after we played Dane her freshman year, we opened the season at Maine in the preseason tournament. So we're playing, and we ended up losing a tough game. I think we lost 2-1. And after the match, we have a few kids in tears and Cap's crying, and for me, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit. But that was a point where I realized that, hey, we're doing something special. When we got kids crying over a regular season loss, that tells me that we have the ship heading in the right direction. And that tells me that this kid wants to win. This kid is driven. This kid wants our program to be elite. And that was a key point for us. And that was, you know, that's something that separated Catherine from a lot of other very good players, is the fact that she really cared about winning and making sure that our team as a whole is laser focused and competing at the highest level that we possibly can. So, still remember that vividly. You know, Kat, it was an absolute pleasure coaching you. Like I said, I know there's times I drove you nuts, there's times you probably drove me nuts. But certainly now, looking back, close to 10 years later, I realized how special that time was. I realized how special our group was, and I realized how special, you know, UMFK athletics was to me and to my family, and hopefully to you and your family as well. You certainly made everybody proud. You put UMFK athletics on the map and helped continue to elevate our program. You know, we're all very thankful for what you did, and this honor tonight is very well deserved. I did want to leave with a couple notes. You know, Kat was very passionate about a lot of things, and you know, for us, you know, we traveled a lot, so you know, I got a chance to realize how passionate about the Red Roof Inns that Kat was. She loves Red Roof Inns. She was a big fan. She loved fast food. She loved my choices of restaurants and food stops, and you know, those were, there's a little sarcasm in there for sure. But I think some of our biggest arguments and our biggest conflicts we ever had was on these road trips, and how much she hated some of the things that we had to, some of the places we had to stay at. There was no cockroaches or anything like that. We did some pretty sketchy hotels in Albany, New York. I still remember a couple of those, but you know, I think Kat will tell you, I think a lot of the players will tell you how special our road trips were and how much fun we had and everything like that. But Kat was never shy about sharing her opinion on some of the things that we had to endure during our time on the road. So I can laugh about it now. But again, Kat, thank you for everything you've done for myself as a coach, for your teammates, for the university, for the athletic department. And this honor tonight is very well deserved. Congratulations, and enjoy.
Proud of yourself. Thanks to Coach Lucas, who I believe will have made a video introducing me tonight to the Hall of Fame. There's so much to say, and I didn't write anything because I wanted the speech to be spontaneous, and I wanted something that comes from my heart. I can remember myself sitting at your places and thinking about me being in the Hall of Fame someday. I really wish I would be in the Hall of Fame, and here I am tonight. It's a great honor to be there. So many things have changed since then. 410 was definitely a great chapter in my life. Being a kid, soccer, studying, and partying sometimes. We did that. Drinking in preseason, even though we weren't supposed to. We did that. But hey, now here I am, and I can only say good things about Werntjen. It's been such a pleasure to play for this university, and we had a really, really good coach who was leading us. And I'm really proud of what I did and what we all did together during these years. And I'm really grateful for that. Since then, I played soccer when I come back. When I came back to Quebec, I played for a couple of years. And then I decided I wanted to travel. So I packed my bags and I went to Nicaragua, which is in Latin America. And I had to prove myself of something. I was in need of discovering myself outside of soccer. You know, when you're so committed to one thing, it becomes a part of yourself and you tend to identify yourself as soccer. So outside of soccer, I didn't know really who I was, so just going far away and traveling, being on my own, I've taught me so much lessons, and it made me who I am today because I discovered another part of me that I didn't know. I didn't know that part of me. I mean, in soccer I was really competitive, and it was great for me then, but then I needed something else. I needed to know. So I traveled, I discovered a passion for surf, and it taught me a lot. It taught me to be calmer as a person. It taught me to respect the nature, because even though you're the best surfer, which I'm not, you'll never be stronger than the sea. The sea will always have more power on you, and you have to bow to that. But even though it's stronger than you, it can teach you so much. It can teach you to be patient. It can teach you to be calmer, as I said. It can teach you how to breathe. It really changed me being a surfer. And then I started to discover that I wanted to help people, but I didn't really know how. I mean, I studied in psychology, so I always been interested in the human, but I realized that it was not as much as the scientific part, but the human itself, and having a conversation between two people and just listening to the person and taking the person for who or she is. And I mean, we all have bad days, we all have good days, and just being there for someone and hoping to make a difference in their life and trying to be inspiring to them, I think it's one of the things that drives me in my today life. Now I'm a massage therapist, so I still work with people. Back in the days, I decided to choose psychology mostly because I wanted to play soccer. But when I graduated, I could not see myself in an office and working a 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and waiting for my weekend to come. I knew I wanted something different, but I just didn't know how. And through the work I'm doing right now, I'm able to have free time, which is, I think, the richest thing we can have is time. So I make my own schedule. If I want a day off, I take a day off. And I'm able to meet some great people, and sometimes it's just about a little seed you can plant into someone, and when they'll be ready, that seed will eventually grow, and that will make some changes in the life of the person. So that's mostly where I'm at right now. I live with my girlfriend just outside of Montreal. Back then I was living north of Montreal, and now I'm on the other side of Montreal. We're surrounded by fields, and we have a couple mountains we can go. We have a lot of apple trees in our backyard, and I think it's about being a better person every day. And as I said, we all have good days, we all have bad days, but what can we do to make tomorrow better? And trying to learn from our mistakes. We all did mistakes in our lives, and I think that learning from that brings us to be a better person every time. So I hope you guys have a great evening tonight. Vic, Ben, take a shot for me at DJ. It takes a lot of work to create events like tonight, a lot of organization. So thanks to everybody who put that together, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.
You know, as the alums will always remember BJ's, even though the name has changed, and so many of us before that also remember the across the border. Maple Leaf was an excellent place to go, but we never went during preseason, I swear. The next Hall of Famer to be will be introduced by no other than Bill Ashby and Marlon Clovers. Please.
Good evening. I'm Marlon Clovers, father of Ben, and I'd like to provide a short perspective of a Hall of Fame presentation from a parent's point of view. It's wonderful to be back. I'd like to first of all congratulate all the Hall of Fame inductees tonight, Ben, Catherine, Ed McKay, and Eric Werntjen. And I'd especially like to make a point of Eric. When Ben first joined the UMFK team in the fall of 2013, Eric was the sponsor of the streaming service, and together with his play-by-play announcer, Jorge Matinzenz, I hope I didn't pronounce his name too poorly, it was a lifesaver for those of us parents who lived far away. It was a way to participate in every home game, and we certainly appreciated it. Although I love geography, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about the United States, I must confess that when I learned that Bill was interested in recruiting Ben to UMFK, I asked, where in the state of Maine is Fort Kent? But I looked it up, and was doubly impressed to learn that Bill and Lucas were running nationally competitive soccer programs from such a remote location. Although Polly, my wife, and I have now lived all of our married life in urban areas, first in Los Angeles and now in Chicago, we both grew up in rural North Dakota. And so we have a lot in common with this community. And the first time that I brought Ben up in the fall of 2008, the Ploy Festival and the International Muskie Derby were in progress. And I still remember strolling down Main Street with all the vendors, all the people enjoying themselves, and just random people saying hello. And it's not something you run across in Los Angeles and Chicago, but it reminded me of North Dakota a great deal. So when it didn't quite work out for Ben the first time, we were really disappointed as a family. I have to be honest, right? I'm a dad. But Ben came home, We were tough. We said, you got 6 months to get out of the house. You got to get a job. And Ben did that. He got a job at the soccer club. He learned, or at the soccer store. He learned what real life was about. But when he came back to us in the fall of 2012 and said, Dad, Mom, I want to go back to school at Fort Kent, we were thrilled. Sorry about that. And so what happened from then on, of course, is well known, and I don't want to go and recite all the details. But several years ago, I sat down and I made a list. And from my count, Ben participated in 102 games while he was at Fort Kent. And Polly and I were able to attend 36 of them in person, whether it was from Cornwall, Prince Edward Island in the east, to Owensboro, Kentucky in the west, from Asheville, North Carolina in the south, to Fort Kent, Maine in the north. We had wonderful weekends. It was just tremendous family time for us. And but even more than getting to see Ben play, which was a great thing, getting to know his teammates, getting to know his coaches on a personal level is just wonderful. Sorry about that again. But in closing, I want to keep this brief because Bill's going to have a much more entertaining presentation than I will. First of all, I want to say thank you to Bill and Lucas for having a nationally competitive soccer program, number one, and number two, inviting Ben to participate in it. Number two, I want to say thank you to his soccer teammates. They were committed, they're wonderful human beings, and their success as a team and the success they had as a team and individual is proof of that. Third, I'd like to thank all the people in the athletic department, the Susan Tardys of the world, for all the support that they gave, not only Ben, but all the student athletes. I'd like to thank the university for sponsoring a soccer program and giving all of these student athletes the opportunities they did. And last, I would like to thank the town of Fort Kent. You're a wonderful small community, and you have a wonderful university. So even though Polly and I live far away and don't get to come here very often, in a small way we feel a very integral part of the UMFK family. Thank you.
Well done, Marlon. Well done. So, I usually use these time to not honor our student athletes, but poke a little fun back of all the hard times they gave me over the years they played for me. So I was writing my speech the last couple of weeks, and I was practicing in my office, and I had people stick their head in the door and say, "You okay, Bill? You okay?" Yep, just practicing, got a speech coming up here. So as I did it, it was too long. And so I cut a lot of the good stuff out that I really wanted to jab Ben with. But then I get here tonight, and I see this write-up, and if Lonnie Netto ran this in my speech through Turnitin, it would be quite evident that somebody plagiarized my speech. So Ben, I'm putting some stuff back in. I'm going to add a little bit here. So Ben Clovers, or should I say Ben the Phoenix Clovers. Ben's story is one of true struggle, failure, but in the end, unmatched achievement and success. Ben joined UMFK in 2008. My first impression, a good kid. I like him. Great personality. Hard worker on the field. very coachable on the field, a good player. But he had a very big and bold bravado that was unsubstantiated off the field. Don't get me wrong, I liked Ben right from the get-go. He was a young Bronco that needed to be tamed. Being like a Bronco, Ben bucked me all the way. He was determined to do things his way. So one time I called Ben in my office when he was first here, and he's a young man of 18, and he's hanging out with some of our older players on the team, 25, 26, 27 years old. I said, Ben, I like these guys. These are good men. I really, really like them, but they're not the people for you to be hanging around with, all right? Their life's journey is at a different place than yours, and you really should be hanging out with people who are going to take you where you want to go. Where these guys are going, it's not a good place, because they're so much more advanced than you. So Ben was going to prove me wrong. He was going to hang out with those guys, and he didn't prove me wrong. No, he didn't. So off the field, Ben was a very coachable at all as a young man. And people who know Ben know wherever he does in a big way. That even includes crashing and burning. Envision, if you will, and we've all seen it on TV, the underdog track hurdler who works his butt off, who jumps every hurdle successfully, has a big lead, victory in sight. All he needs to do is cross the finish line and glory is his. Only to trip and fall in the last few yards. That, my friends, is Ben Clovers' first semester at UMFK. Second semester, well, let's just say Ben got disqualified for false start. It became clear to Ben's mom and dad, as you heard from Marlon, that Ben needed some time off. He needed some time to find himself, to sort himself out, adjust his priorities, and time to become an athlete. And he did, with help from his mom and dad. So, once one of my players, always one of my players, always on my team. I tell this over and over again, and some people think it's just hot air from a coach. But it's not. It's my pledge. It's my pledge to my players, and it's a pledge that I keep. For 5 years, I kept in touch with Ben Clovers, kept reaching out, checking to see if he was doing well, if he might be ready to finish journey, truly concerned about him as an individual and as a human being. In the fall of 2013, Ben was ready to join UMFK. They say that time takes care of all things. This is never more true than for Ben Clovers. Ben returned to UMFK as a mature man, a man with a vision, a man with a plan for success. Earlier, I referred to Ben as a good soccer player. And he is a good soccer player. If I was to grade Ben's overall soccer ability, top to bottom, start to finish, I'd give him a B+. True. But you can imagine it takes much, much more than being a B+ player to get into this Hall of Fame. To have your name spoken in the same breath as fellow soccer teammates and Hall of Famers, Emma Jacoby, Andre Anderson, Keith Williams, Damian Stone, Barrington Blake, and Jared Phillips. It takes a massive performance to make this Hall of Fame. It takes a Herculean effort, an effort that is worthy to sit upon the mountain of UMFK glory. Here's what it takes. It takes being the best first-time finisher I have ever seen. Not the best I've ever coached, but the best I've ever seen. He was good. He's good. Best I've seen in 35 years. Ben was a player who could make a no-chance scoring opportunity into a spectacular goal. He had the professional ability to read the game and to be at the right place at the right time. The ability to take a less than half chance and put it on the scoreboard for us. But Ben will attest, we had many conversations that go something like this, going back to the B+ player. Ben, stop trying to be a soccer player. We don't need you to be a player. We have players. We need you to do what you do well and do best. Score goals. Just go score goals, Ben. And that he did. 98 goals in 83 games. He also added 31 assists and set up goals for his teammates. In the end, Ben became much more than a goal scorer for us. He became a leader of men. He led by example. He led by deed and direction. He was the foundation for the Bengals in unprecedented national soccer success. Ben's 4-year team record was 81 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie. 4 Potato Barrel championships over Umpy. 4 USCAA national championship games. 2 of them national championship wins. Ben was selected to 4 USCAA national tournament all-tournament teams and winning MVP in 2006. A 4-time first-team All-American selection. But the honor that's probably impressed me the most is an honor that is extremely hard to get, and it really speaks to the breadth and the overall character of the man. So Ben won 3 National Players of the Year award in the USCAA, and that has never been done before, and I doubt if it'll ever be done again. There is no question he has earned his place upon UMFK's mountain of glory. I was proud of him to have him on my team. I'm proud of his accomplishments as a player. I am proud of his accomplishments as a professional soccer coach. I am proud of the husband and father he has become. I am proud to call him my friend. Now I'm even more proud to call him a UMFK Athletic Hall of Famer. Ben, the Phoenix has risen. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ben Clovers into the University of Maine 410 Athletic Hall of Fame.
It's all situated. All right. All right. Whew. All right. A little emotional, and then we got to have some fun with Coach Bill there. But thank you, everybody, for honoring me tonight. This has been truly special for me, if you couldn't tell from my dad. Hopefully I will be a little less emotional. I definitely got some tears, so hopefully I got them out of my system. Otherwise, my wife might have my head by the end of tonight. Well, I have to say, for anyone that knew me back originally in 2008, when I first stepped up on campus, probably never thought I'd be standing up in front of you today, especially when I finished in the spring of 2009. Definitely wasn't going to be the case, but we'll get to that later. Before I get started, I want to do something a little different. Most inductees thank people, right? I think that's a big part of what we do here, because without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. But I would like to apologize, right? Because I think I made a lot of mistakes, and I want to take the time to apologize, starting with the UMFK staff. I apologize for wasting your time and for your resources that you constantly gave me to be successful here at UMFK. I think a very important story is with Leo Trudell over here. I was in his Business 101 class in the ripe age of 18, and I sit down in this class, and I think Leo could clearly tell I did not want to be there. So he looked at me and he said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Ben." He's like, "Do you watch the news?" And I said, "No, I'm 18. Why would I look at any news article at the age of 18? And he looked at me with a very quizzed mind going, "Man, this kid isn't going to last very long here." And he definitely dug into me for the next couple of minutes, but it was a very eye-opening moment because I think, when I look back at everything, academics wasn't always my strong suit, as we could clearly tell. But it was just a very interesting moment in my time when I first came here, because school wasn't why I was here. Soccer was the reason I was here, and I was just like, oh, okay, don't watch the news. I'll get back to doing what I do best, playing video games. I also want to apologize to my mom and my dad. I'm apologizing for taking almost 10 years to graduate and finding out the hard way that I was clearly not mature enough to be away on my own at 18/19. Thank God you gave me more than my handful of chances to do what was right. And to Coach Ashby, I apologize for letting you down and always having to earn your trust back. I still to this day don't know what you saw in me at the ripe old age of 18, but I'm glad you never gave up on me. So a lot of you know who I am, clearly, because I'm being inducted tonight, but that was for the accomplishments of from the fall of 2013 to the spring of 2017, right? But only a very few of you know the journey that it took to get here. I know you heard a couple of things from my father and then a couple of things from Coach Ashby, but there's a lot more to the story, and I can't wait to get to it. But there's three things that I want everybody to realize after my speech tonight. Number one, never give up. Number two, fail, 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 and fail again. And number three, be proud of who you are, where you came from, and the people who helped you to get there. And before I get started with kind of my journey, the way I found out that I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year was quite interesting and honestly not surprising at the same time. So March 7th of 2022, we just had our son. I'm sleep deprived to the max. I love you, Colin. I don't know where you are. You're with he's over there with my mom. But I get a message from Bill at 11 in the morning, and he tells me, hey Ben, we really want to induct you to the Hall of Fame, but I don't think you graduated yet. And I sat there very quizzed. I was in a meeting and my stomach dropped to the floor because I'm like, seriously, do I really have to go back to school again? And very quickly, kudos to my wife here, Vic. She got my transcripts, said, you definitely graduated. I have your transcripts. And lo and behold, a couple weeks later, everything got fixed and I actually did graduate. And I'm up here in front of you tonight because if there's only one academic thing that needs to happen in order to be inducted, you need to graduate. But the journey, right? I think this is really important for especially student athletes that are kind of going through this process right now, to just kind of hear from my point of view. Because as it says in the program, I think unorthodox embodies me to the core. August 2008, a week before preseason, I find out that I'm going to school at the University of Maine at Fort Kent. I think most kids nowadays in their sophomore, junior years of high school, they're going on trips to universities, checking out campuses. I found out a week before preseason, and I looked at my dad, I said, oh, I guess we got lucky, and let's go to Fort Kent. But then I said, wait, where is Fort Kent? And my dad, like he said, very knowledgeable of the United States, had no idea. Boy, were we in for a trip. We landed at Logan 7.5 hours later, north. We're in Fort Kent, or what felt like Canada at the time. I step out of the rental car, and I meet Emlyn Jacoby, Hall of Famer, right? And what felt like the entire Jamaican national team. All the boys back there. I would like to say I fit right in, but I think Emlyn, Andre, Barry, Oniki, all the boys would look at me and say, I don't think so. And over the course of the fall season, 2008 season, which was one of the most successful ever, which is why they've been inducted into the Hall of Fame as a team. It's truly an accomplishment, and just being a part of that team was amazing. But in that freshman year of mine, very quickly, I learned that I'd be redshirted. I think it's every player's worst nightmare, especially when I don't think it's their decision, it's a coach's decision, which was the right decision, if I'm going to be very clear. As a player, you know, it stung me to the core knowing that I couldn't play. It was devastating. I felt like everything that I came here for was now a waste. But that's an 18-year-old thinking in the moment, right? But all that was required was to continue to work with the team, attend practices, along with doing well in school, and the fall of 2009 would be the start of Ben Clovers' UMFK soccer career, or so we all thought. I could not tell you how relieving it was to not have to listen to my mom and dad nagging me every day and tell me what I needed to do, and I took full advantage of that. This is when video games really became a popular thing. Halo 3, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty World at War were just a few of the games that I played on a hourly basis here at the campus. If playing video games was a degree back in the day, I'd have a 4.0 GPA, and I would be very successful. As Coach Bill said earlier, I quickly befriended people at the time that would ultimately guide me in the wrong direction. And I will never forget, this is Coach Bill bringing me into his office, pulled me in his office one day and said, "Ben, you're a good kid, but you need to find some new friends." That's the abbreviated version of what he said to me, right? And the first thing I thought to myself was, that's a dumb thing to say, they're my friends, which is clearly the bravado that I brought around here, and whatever I wanted to do, I made sure I did it, right? And with the combination of video games, friends that ultimately guided me in the wrong direction, and ultimately no direction in my life would be the final nail in the coffin. I went from having straight A's, I want to be very clear, I had straight A's up until Thanksgiving 2008. Unfortunately, Coach Bill decided to take me to Fresno, California for the NAIA National Championship when I wasn't even playing. Homework was the last thing on my mind. I went from having 4 A's to, 5 A's, 4 F's, 1 D by the end of my first semester. And then in the spring, I finished with another wonderful 4 F's. At this point, I had a .09 GPA. And I don't know why we're applauding that, that's not a good thing. And I was dismissed from UMFK on academic probation. Try going home to a mom who is an educator in middle school to tell her that her son had just failed out of college. That didn't go so well. At this point in my life, I was no stranger to failure, but never to this magnitude. And my mom's first words to me after a couple of days of silence were, "You are going to need to find a job and move out on your own and know what it's like to have a job with no degree." Okay. On the job hunt I went, and in no time I found a job, like my father had said, at a soccer retail store. Surprising, I know, soccer. Soon after, I would move out of the house and live with a couple of other guys that I'd worked with. Over the course of the next couple of years, soccer always remained constant in my life, but the thought of going back to school just never got me really excited. But lo and behold, Coach Ashby, every year after I had left, would reach out to me and politely ask, "I think you're ready to come back. Let's get you back into the UMFK and let's get you your degree." And every year up until 2013, I had said, school's just not for me. I'm gonna take a pass, and would politely decline and move on with my life. Coach Ashby never gave up on me, just like my parents never did. This would be the catalyst to one of the greatest comebacks ever. After a semi-professional game in the fall of 2012, like my dad had said, I went to breakfast with my parents and announced I felt like I was ready to come back to school. And that was a big deal for me, because I really didn't like school at that time. And in the moment, I could see the both of them that it was the right decision and the right time. I was 23, I wasn't getting any younger. And they were in full support of it. This was a great feeling, and I was ready for the best 4 years of my life to commence. Fast forward to November 15th, 2016. We had just won our second national championship. I was a two-time national champion. I finished with 98 goals, 31 assists, 227 points, and various other accolades along the way. I won't bore you. You may initially think that, wow, Ben Clovers, really good soccer player. Let me assure you, that was not always the case. Coach Ashby said it best to me. When you take more than 3 touches, you are just a terrible soccer player. Thanks, Coach. He also likes to remind me that over the course of my 4 years, we lost more games than any other teams combined before us. Also, thanks, Coach. When I came back in 2013, I never thought in my head that I would hold a school record for goals and overtake arguably one of the best strikers to grace Fort Kent, Andre Anderson back there. Nor that I would be a 2-time national champion after failing to win the first 2 my freshman and sophomore years. Before success, there's always failure, and to be the most successful, you need to know how to fail. Along with that, you need the world's melting pot of international players that can actually play soccer and make you look like the most unbelievable player to grace this field. I promise, I wasn't that good. All my teammates were the ones that were good. But the main reason that I was so successful here at UMFK is because of the people. I had people who wanted me to be successful and always be the best version of myself. From the staff here at UMFK to every single player, right? Players that are here in attendance tonight also came to my wedding and threw me 20 feet in the air. Is clearly the reason that I am the person I am today. And I am so grateful to have had the chance to play with them over my 5-year period. There was a winning tradition and culture that was created when I first came here in 2008. When I came back, I wanted to make the guys from 2008 proud. The team had a massive impact on me as a person and as a player, even though it took me till 2016 to officially realize it. This could be the tough part here. Here we go. I am here now to tell you that I would not be getting inducted without all my teammates and brothers that I got to spend 4 years with. I knew it. Many of which are in attendance tonight. I would not be the player I am today without you guys, and I am beyond grateful. When I became captain of my team my junior year, I know that many of you wished that I had quit and let someone else take the reins of the team. I just want to let you know that I'm still not sorry for all the 6 a.m. runs, conditioning, hill runs we did over that 2-year period, because during that 2-year period, we became arguably the most successful team in that 2-year stretch in UMFK soccer history. The fact that you view me as your captain, as your brother, just goes to show how much of a team and bond we all had, and I always will be thankful for having you in my life. Come on, Ben, we can do this. Here we go. Thank you to Coach Ashby for never giving up on me. I clearly was a decent soccer player all along, and I'm sorry I made you wait until 2013 to see the return on your investment. Thank you to my parents who allowed me to come back here and truly make my mark on the Fort Kent community. Without their support, travel to more games than I could ever have imagined, and snacks for the whole family of boys on the bus, we would not be able to accomplish all the things that we did. I'd also like to thank my wife, Victoria, who stood by my side since day one, and Willie, more importantly, he's here tonight. Where's Willie? Back there. He was the matchmaker who basically said, I don't know how it translates, I don't know how to say it in French, clearly. You'd think after 10 years I know a little bit of French. But he basically said, Vic thinks you're not bad looking. So I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to take that, but I'm punching above my weight, so I'll be happy to take that. But thank you, Vic, standing by my side since day one, and your constant help with homework and papers was greatly appreciated and necessary to get me through all 4 years and graduate. Thank you to everyone here tonight and all the people who could not be here today. I want to finally thank the Hall of Fame committee for such an incredible night and putting on another great induction ceremony. Thank you, everybody.
We are halfway through the event. Our next inductee, Ed McKay, class of '82, will be introduced by Al Bouchard. Al, are you here?
Good evening, everybody, and congratulations to the 4 inductees tonight. This is not something I'm usually comfortable doing, but when Ed called me and asked me to do this, there was no way I could say no. I came here in 1978 as a freshman. One of the first people I met here was Ed. Now, we can't brag about what the soccer team has been able to brag about the last 2 people that have come up, because we struggled. When Ed came up here to tour the university, they had a great basketball team. They had guys 6'7", 6'6", 6'5", you know, and they were 17-0, and Ed said, this is the place I want to come. He came, most of them were gone. The coach had retired. The new coach was the starting guard, and that's how it went. But he never gave up. He never gave up on this university. He never, for one moment, thought about leaving. He came back the next year. There was a new coach. That was my freshman year, Leroy Marquis. Good coach, didn't last the season. One of the things, we had no height. We were a very short team. But Leroy brought in a guy from St. Francis, Jason Martin, who would definitely remind you of Paul Bunyan. The only concern with him was every time he'd intimidate everybody, but they'd put him in a game and he'd never last more than 3-4 minutes before fouling out. It just could not happen. So it was tough. We had a good heart. We played competitively with every team we played against, but we just didn't have the talent. But for Ed, we went to a tournament down in Franklin Pierce. We lost both games, but in that tournament, Ed scored the most points in the tournament. He scored 80 points. And the crowd was definitely on his side. They cheered him, they loved what he did, and it goes to show, because Ed's personality would win anybody over. We went to Laval. We played a game in Laval. Every time Ed touched the ball, they said, shoot the ball, shoot the ball. By the end of the game, they were saying, don't shoot, because he scored like 45 points in that game. And he was a very quick release shooter. They'd get him the ball and boom, it was out of his hands before anybody had a chance to cover him. Now, Leroy left for personal reasons before the end of the season, so we had Paul Sylvester come in. And he coached for a year and a quarter. But we had no recruiting going on. It was just whoever came onto the campus, and if you could play basketball, let's go. Fortunately for us, we had a rock in the university, and it was Larry Murphy. No matter what, we always knew we could go to Larry, and he was going to point us in the right direction and make us do the right things, and we always appreciated the fact that he was there. At 1978, when I was here, he was on the cross-country team. And unfortunately, the coach only lasted 1 year because Roger Grindle had an aneurysm and passed away that year. And then he started playing soccer. He played soccer for 2 years. He was a right wing, very athletic. So he had no problem filling that position. And then with basketball, there was nobody that could touch him. We didn't have the height, but he kept us in every game. It was so much fun to be a part of his life. He was one of the first people, like I said, I met, and we have a bond that has stretched since then. We've always maintained contact. He's taught me a lot. It takes a lot more than just being a good athlete to get into the Hall of Fame. You have to have a lot of tenacity. You have to have a good personality, somebody that's willing to go above and beyond, not just on the athletic field. And Ed was one of those people. He taught me, he brought me to the radio station to teach me how to be a DJ. I was the student director of intramurals. He would always come and help and volunteer to help me do whatever I needed to do. He was always there. We wanted to have a college night. We went to Rudy, who owned the Fort Kent Hotel, and we had Wednesday night college night. He and I did the DJing there, also at the Round Point. But every step of the way, Ed was there to help out anybody, anytime, any place. He never said no, and it was just an honor to be a part of his life and to watch the basketball abilities. He scored over 1,500 points, no three-pointers. He was a quick shooting guard. So there were no three-pointers and we didn't have any height. So it was very easy for our opponents to focus on him because we didn't have a whole lot more. But they could try to focus on him. They just couldn't stop him because of his quick release. He was so fast. It just didn't happen. And that's why he scored all those points. And I always wondered, if he would have had the three-point, he was like a Steph Curry. I mean, he could shoot anywhere, and he did. And it was quite impressive. Even when we had the tough times, it was always impressive to watch him play. It's an honor and a pleasure and a privilege. And I want to introduce Ed McKay as an inductee for the Hall of Fame, UMFK.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Al was my roommate, so he had to say that. Okay. I'm honored to be here this evening with you all. It's been a long journey, traveling and getting nominated for this award. For me, coming here, it was like homecoming. While coming up to campus, it was great to see how things had developed over time and how some things haven't changed. Different landmarks is still here that was here when I was going to school. I remember first getting to the university not knowing what to expect, being so far from home and alone. One thing I learned was there was no strangers on campus. Coming from a warmer state, Florida, where I lived before I came to Maine, it turned out to give me a lesson in planning for the winter because it was so cold. And in the winter of '76, my first year, I remember for the rest of my life because I've never seen snow before. Yeah. That winter required me to learn how to dress appropriately for the coming winters. And looking back on that now, I realize my experience in northern Maine was one of the best experiences in my young life. Excuse me. Everyone, even me, has that thing that just brings a spark of joy to your life. And for me, that was basketball. The first year, like Al said, was a very notable year in basketball. We had at least 3 players at each position. And I was lucky enough to come off the bench at that time because that was my freshman year. So I was 6th or 7th man at the time. It pushed me to improve my game, not wanting to be a one-dimensional player. We jumped out to a 17-0 start that year. We made the regional playoffs. but with losses and key injuries to key players, our dream season came to an end. Little did I know it would be the last season of the former UMFK Hall of Famer, Ozzy Osgood. He was my first coach. And it was a great honor to play for him and on that special team that year. Similar to many students, I started to miss home after arriving on campus. I made a big decision to transfer to a local college in my hometown in Florida, which lasted one semester. I realized I could flourish more in a smaller college environment, so I returned to UMFK the winter of '78. Now that I was back from Florida and in Maine, I was able to continue my love for playing basketball in the next 3 years to come. I continued to play basketball. I had the honor of being coached by many great individuals. As Al mentioned, the late Leroy Marquis, Paul Sylvester, and another Hall of Famer, James Elias. During that period of time, the 3 years, we saw an abundance of players come and go. Those real lean years, those years. But everyone gave what they had, which was a great effort, and I was proud of that. They didn't give up. During those 3 years, in order for me to stay in shape and condition, I tried my foot at soccer and cross country. So under the tutelage of another Hall of Famer, Larry Murphy, soccer coach, and the late great Professor Roger L. Grindle in cross country. My growth in sports and life was personified. I met a lot of friends during that time at UMFK, which I still communicate with today. Upon graduation, I knew I would miss that environment. I had become so comfortable in the profession and most of the students and peers. After traveling the country for a while, which we sometimes do, until we find a place, purpose, and career, I landed in California, where I interned and studied and trained for a year in the career in mental health. Little did I know I would spend the next 30 years in the mental health field. It was hard, demanding work, but it allowed me the opportunity to see people where they are and assist them in progressing in life. In 2018, I retired from a career at the State of California Department of Hospitals. I have continued my love of serving others by contributing to my community, by preparing taxes for the public in my private time, which I've done for 20 years. In addition, I enjoy cooking new meals, traveling, meeting people, and spending time with my family. I'm lucky to have a family who care and support me. My youngest daughter, who attended this ceremony with me, we traveled from California together, so I'm glad she came. She's a good supporter for me. So I'm blessed to have 2 other daughters and 3 grandkids and other family members. They are my biggest joy in my life. I would also like to thank and recognize university members, Carly Flowers, Athletic Director, Matt Dyer, Athletic Compliance Officer, and Susan Tardy, Alumni Affairs Officer, for keeping me abreast on the process and communicating to me what it took to make this night possible for me. In addition, I'd like to acknowledge UMFK President Deb Hadeen. and the nominating committee for selecting me for this Athletic Hall of Fame class of 22. I'm also appreciative to have my college roommate, Al, introduce me, and my college friends that attended this ceremony. I would like to congratulate my inductees of 2022, the other 3 inductees, and all the inductees before me since 2008. So in closing, and coming back home to my other home, which is Maine, is truly an honor. I'd like to say I started in high school as a Tiger and grew up at UMFK as a Bengal. Go Bengals, thank you.
Before we go to our next inductee, I just want to take a little bit of a moment hearing all 3 inductees tonight. It just reminds us how this college truly changes lives. For those of you who are students who are yet to stand here, hopefully in time you will have your own stories to tell. UMFK is truly a special place. What makes it special is its people. The next inductee is a personal friend of mine, someone who we all miss dearly. And there are a number of folks who are going to say a few words in order to induct Eric. The first is from his partner in crime, co-coach, and personal friend via video, Levesque.
I just wanted to take a minute to send my best to the Werntjen family on Eric's special night. Eric is one of my best friends. Worked side by side with him for, I believe, 9 years. To be honest, Eric's the reason why I got hired at Maine Fort Cannon in the first place. On a full-time basis. He really helped guide me and kind of showed me the ropes. And for a young 24-year-old coaching women's basketball, at the time I think Eric had forgotten more about basketball than I knew. And it was a big learning experience for me. And he was great from day one, showing me the ropes, helping me, keeping me sane. And we shared so many great memories together. But Eric was first class. Eric was always the life of the room. Eric had probably the greatest sense of humor of anybody that I've ever been around. There's still times where I'll be having conversations and I'll crack a joke and I'll be like, that's an Eric joke. But Eric he did so much for Fort Kent. He did so much for UMFK. He did so much for the community of Fort Kent. He did so much for basketball in Ozzy County. Did so much for all student athletes that have come through, the high school and colleges. So many players through the years that whether they're driving his truck or just helping them through school and helping them through being homesick and just guiding them through life. Eric was a tremendous mentor and role model, and somebody who left one of the greatest legacies you could possibly think of. Eric was, again, just a wonderful person, and somebody who I miss greatly every day. I still remember some talks that we had even after I moved here to Georgia, just talking about life and talking about our kids and talking about the good old days and some of the stories we shared. There's a lot of good times in there and some memories some moments that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Eric, congratulations. This is well deserved. You did so much, and so much for me. I would not be where I am today. I would not have had the career I had without you setting the table in so many different avenues. And you know, for building UMFK women's athletics, soccer and basketball, to again being a mentor for me, and just being a confidant and being somebody who, you know, I thoroughly enjoy going to work every day because of our conversations and because of our relationship. And you know, I've officially forgiven you for not picking me up at the airport that day in Vermont. But in all seriousness, Eric, I love you. This is very well deserving. And thank you for everything you've done for all of us.
You know, for those of you who never had the pleasure of meeting Eric, if there was ever a Mr. Fort Kent award, I really think Eric would have gotten it. I've never seen that man upset. I've never seen that man get mad at anyone. No matter how bad things seemed to be, he was just the guy who just said it was going to be okay. He truly was taken from us a little too soon. And here to honor him as an inductee for 2022 is Jeff Kinney.
Tremendous honor for me to be up here and speak on Eric's behalf. I would like to thank the administration of UMFK, as well as the selection committee. I would like to thank Coach Corey for doing a tremendous job tonight and going 3.5 hours without a yellow card for the first time I think I've ever seen. Tremendous job on your part. And I did look, Murph, the Giants play the late game tomorrow, so you're okay so far. You'll be home in time. No matter how long-winded I am, and I will try to be brief. Try to be brief. It's great to see so many people here who meant a lot to Eric, starting with, you know, the table that I was blessed to sit with over here. Lily and Avery are here, Joyce is here, Sue is here, and of course the Harv. The last time I was in this gym was in 2014, when James Harvey received the Red Powell Award, the very first one that was given out. It's hard to believe it's been over 8 years since I've been in this building, and it looks tremendous with all the improvements this year, with the new floor, the bleachers, and paint job and such. So I'm really a proud alumnus to see this in here today. Eric was a native of Vermont, growing up with his parents, Will and Joyce, brothers Carl and Neil. Kurt and Neil. Grew up in Essex Junction, Vermont. Now everybody knew him as the S-Man, or S, and there are many stories. I'm never sure which one was accurate of how he got that name. Some people said it's because of his tall, lanky body. When he was shooting the ball, he looked like in the shape of an S. I thought it was short for Essex Junction, where he grew up. Nobody ever really knew the true story. Somebody will have to fill me in at some point on how that happened. So when I refer to the S-Man, it's just out of habit. We know I'm talking about Eric. So I just wanted to say that. I was blessed to coach with him from the fall of 2003 through the spring of 2006. When he transferred over from the women's program to the men's, he retained me as an assistant coach. I had been here for all of 2 games, working under former coach Jim Graffam. And he said, you have one job. You have to stay in my ear during games. Okay. Eric was 6'8". I am 5'8". So I was blessed to spend 3 seasons in his armpit. I think it was right guard. I'm trying to remember the cent. But anyway. But Eric and I went further back than that. Eric arrived on Westbrook College's campus in the fall of 1993. That's how long ago it was. And I, being a sophomore in high school at the time, looking for a career in broadcasting, actually broadcasted Westbrook College basketball games on cable access. So I went that far back with Eric to his freshman year as a player in college, all the way back there. Our paths continued to cross over those years. When Westbrook College merged with UNE, University of New England, for his senior year of 96-97. Eric's senior year, his career high, he scored 39 points against Husson in the Paul Bunyan tournament at Husson College in a double overtime 120-118 loss to Husson. Now, how do I remember those details? By then I had moved on as a student to the New England School of Communications, and I was broadcasting the game for the Husson campus station that day. It seemed like along the way, me and this crazy, tall, lanky, and somehow at age 21 balding individual, we seemed to cross paths over many different ways. We coached together at hoop camp down in Casco, Maine for many summers, until finally his mentor, his college coach, and the man who was up here at the time as athletic director, Jim Graffam, brought him up here to get him started on his coaching career in the fall of '98, in the 98-99 season, where he was given the task of starting the women's soccer and women's basketball programs. He coached with Coach Graffam on the basketball side that first year, and then took over as the head coach after that to start the programs. Okay, so the first time he won a game for either of those teams, he was already the school's all-time winningest coach. He never really liked to admit that, but that's a fact. That was his arrival here in Fort Kent. He started the programs. Think about how far those programs have come since then, right? Now, it was a simpler time back then, right? We were in NAIA, Division II. It was kind of like anything that you start off local and then branch out, right? And at the time, Eric took great pride in not only bringing in local talent, the best players within reach of this campus, but also going global as well to bring those in. And I'm always hesitant to mention players in the past because I don't want to slight anybody, right? I think any of us who knew Eric knew that every athlete who ever donned a Bengal uniform, either gender, any of these sports, meant the world to this man, okay? But in our many, many miles of travel, whether it be in car, bus, wherever, when we would talk about the foundations and how the programs were built, there were certain names that he would mention. And some of them are probably watching tonight. But when it came to the women's soccer program, he always said, without Jess Guyon and Meg Foreman, there would be no Lady Bengal soccer. And on the women's basketball side, it was always Melissa Hare and Heidi Fisher laid the foundation for women's basketball. As I said, he transitioned to the men's program in October of 2003. We had already started our season down in Nova Scotia with 2 games when Coach Graffam made the decision to leave here and go to Green Mountain College. And it was a very difficult decision for Eric on many levels, because he had gotten the women's program now to the point where they were going to win. They were going to be successful, and he had built it from scratch. And he also really labored on the perception of, you know, are people going to think that I just care more about men's sports than women's, right? And again, any of us that knew that man, he didn't have to worry about that. We knew better, right? But it was very tough for him to make that transition. It was even tougher after we completed that first year with a 9-17 record, and we watched Coach Lucas take the women's team to the national tournament, right? Now, obviously, Coach Lucas, his career speaks for itself, tremendous coach, and he got him there. But there was that part of Eric, it really struggled because he knew, I built that, and I left it just as it was finally hitting that level, and now I'm down here and I get to take the men's program to that level. And it may have taken a little bit longer, but he did it. He got him to the Nationals in 2010, and it meant a lot, obviously, to him. And again, never wanting to slight anybody and leave names out, there were certain players along the way and certain leaders that not only played for Eric, but then later coached for Eric as assistants that helped get the program to that level. And there were three people that he would always mention in our conversations over the many miles, right? One of them is here tonight, Derek Cooper. Hamil Woogie Basu. And UMFK Hall of Famer, Jimmy Lopez. Those leaders as players and later on as assistant coaches took a program that, as I said, we were 9-17 in that 03-04 season, and we followed it up tremendously the next year with a 9-18. Luckily, we played one more game. And then the third year I coached with Eric, we went 13-15, and that's when the turning point really started, and things took off from there. Eric decided to leave the college after the 2014 season. Obviously, with the changes in the structure of moving from NAIA to USCAA, and those various changes were going to lead to more travel, and they did lead to more travel. And with Lily and Avery getting older, he wanted to be closer to home. And so he made that decision to leave. It was not an easy decision for him, because coaching college basketball and taking kids when they arrived on this campus and molding them together into a team and having them leave here as men after 4 years was huge for him. It was tough for him to step away from that. I've heard the word legacy a couple of times. It's in the program, in his write-up. I heard Coach Lucas say it as well, and it kind of stole my thunder. That's the last of my bullet points on my little note card. I couldn't type out a speech, the coach and me, I just have to get up and go, based on notes. But legacy, when I think of Eric, that's the word I think about, is legacy, right? Now, he would have absolutely hated this tonight. He had the least amount of ego and was the most humble man I ever met. He would not have liked this. And for many years when we were coaching together amongst the many miles, right, when we would get on Route 11 because he wanted to drive to Stearns. This is a story I told early today at lunch, and it's a true one. We got in the car one day, we had early practice, there's a kid playing at Stearns, we want to go watch him. So I'm driving. I always drove. Eric was confused by the fact there were two Irvings in downtown Fort Kent. He didn't know which one was which. I always drove. We get on Route 11. We're in the woods. Eric's got my dome light on, it's dark outside, and he's reading the paper. And we get almost to Ashland, and he goes, "Kinney, this is yesterday's paper. They played last night." Well, where are we going now? Well, let's see. According to yesterday's paper, tomorrow's schedule says, and we ended up going to another gym and seeing another player that night. We called an audible, we made it, and as it turns out, the kid we went to watch started, scored 4 points in the first minute, didn't play the rest of the night. He had gotten a technical the previous game and only got to play in that game because it was senior night. So we drove almost to Stearns, took a UE and went back to Fort Fairfield and got to see a kid play 1 minute. That was an exciting road trip. But over those many miles, when we would talk, in the many miles in the vans, which were still many miles, but when I was driving it wasn't as long, hence the letters to President Cost about why is this UMFK van speeding by us at 85, and the couple of stops we had to make on the way back from Linden once because there were blue lights behind us. I wanted to get home. But we would talk, and it drove him crazy that we couldn't win and we couldn't get to nationals. And that was that was the level he held himself to. And no matter how many times I tried to explain to him, Eric, none of these kids are going to remember our record. What we're doing is we are producing citizens. We're producing people. We are teaching life lessons. And nobody I've ever met in my life was better at it than Eric. And I tried to explain this to him so many times. Almost as many times I tried to explain our inverted triangle and two and the other defenses that I was trying to run. but I lost him at the word defense. But finally, and I tried to find his exact words, but you know how social media is, trying to go back 12 years is tough. But when they finally won in 2010, we had I can't remember now if it was a messenger or if it was a post on Facebook, some sort of conversation about it, where I said, you know, I'm so happy for you that you finally did this, but I hope you realize that you were an elite coach before you ever accomplished this, as I've been telling you for years. And at long last, he finally admitted, and he never ever admitted that I was right, but he finally admitted, as the seconds were ticking down on the clock at NHTI, as we're up big on Fisher, and I realized we're finally going to go to Branson. He said, I finally realized that you were right. I thought about all of the people that we had produced to get to that moment and what they were doing with their lives, and I realized that's what it's about. And when I look around this room and I look at our future athletes, yeah, it's great watching them curb stomp Fisher today, right, on the soccer field, which is great because we dominate. But I know that Eric's legacy has been handed down for generations of coaches here, and that these athletes are also going to accomplish great things in life, as everybody who ever played at this university and came in contact with Eric Werntjen has done. When I look at my Facebook and my social media, and I look at all the people that I've been blessed to know through Eric and through coaching in this university, and I see them as parents, I see them raising their kids, I see them doing successful things in life. None of them remember that we lost to Albany College of Pharmacy at Green Mountain. None of them remember that. In fact, Eric thought they were going to warm up in lab coats, right? But he produced people, and that's what this is about at this level, and he did it better than anybody else. Knowing him as well as I did, and knowing his sense of humor, I thought to myself, there were two ways that he probably would have wrapped this up tonight, right? The first one, he probably would have gotten to the end and said, as you were, and he would have walked off. But once I found out that I was going last, and as I watched Lucas's first speech that went longer than my coaching career here, and I'll make fun of him for that because the man texted me himself as it was playing saying, is this ever going to end? So he made fun of himself first. But I realized that there's only one way to walk off this stage tonight and honor the man who clearly would have said, let's make like me and get the heck out of here.
You know, Jim, you didn't have to out me about my yellow cards. And by the way, for those of you, that was when I was a coach, not when I was a player. I am the proud recipient of 5 yellow cards and 2 red cards as a coach. The president of the university actually called me into their office to explain to me, you are such a decent young man. What happens to you on the sidelines? I have no idea. And but anyway, in all seriousness, before we wrap up, a final word about Eric. You know, when I left Fort Kent, I was emotional because, like many of us, this place is family, this place is home. I have spent more time in my life in Fort Kent than any one single location as a young man who left his homeland that was torn and was looking for a home. Eric is the symbol of home. I'll tell you, I did not recognize what a decent human being he was until, you know, I was ready to move on. I'd gotten my first vice presidency. I was leaving University of Maine, Fort Kent. I was struggling with leaving. And, you know, he kind of put his arm around me and he was like, you know, such is life. And he actually, I didn't notice at the time, but he had this beautiful letter written to make sure I had a piece of Fort Kent with me when I went. And all these years later, it's actually still on my wall in my office, a letter from Eric, who actually took the time to write it, type it up, sign it, because he wanted me to take with me a piece of home. So they say that people we lose really only go away. We only lose them the last time we say their name, the last time we remember them. We are never going to lose Eric Werntjen. We miss you, my brother. But Eric would not want this to end on a downer. And so let's have a little bit of fun before we close. I would love all of us to get up so we can have a 2022 selfie. It's going to be totes adorbs. And so that we can remember tonight in fun. So everybody, please get up. Sorry, those of you streaming, get closer to the screens as well.
Yeah. Those are your Pringles.
Thank you. Oh, wait, before you sit down, if we want one more, hold on. No, I'm getting requests. Hold on. Oh, hold on. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay. Wait, before you sit down, let's have a little bit of fun. I want this to go 3 times so we can start a new tradition here. When we end the Hall of Fame, we are all Bengals. Like you said, no matter where we start, we end as Bengals. So when I say go, you say? Bengals. Go! Bengals. Go! Bengals. Go! Bengals. Thank you very much. So as we bring the night to a close, those of you who are streaming in, thank you so much for taking the time. We really hope we see you here next year, because in order to keep this legacy alive, we have to keep coming back. As alumni, as employees, as students, as friends of this college, we all have to come back. So without further ado, I now call this event closed. Let's get out of here.